Hello, everyone, and welcome to your 5 to 10 minutes of I Can't Believe That Happened, a crazy moments in history podcast. Listen on your way to school or work and have something really cool and neat to talk about. If you can be very, very nice to this podcast, please share us. Make sure you tell a friend, share with a group online, or just say something really nice about us on iTunes. Here we go. Hello, everyone, and welcome to this week's I Can't Believe That Happened. I'm sorry I'm running a little late on the episode. I had another episode I was super excited to give you, but honestly, I really could not find enough viable resources for it to give it to you. So last minute, I went around and did some further research, and I found a new topic for you guys. So this is going to be the top 5 things that you probably did not know about royal dogs. So throughout history, dogs in royal households have held a very high role. And a lot of the time, especially in more recent British history, you'll see that they are a big part of royal households, especially for princes and princesses. Queen Mary comes just reeling to mind, and Queen Elizabeth as two very passionate dog owners and love of dogs. Just if you think about childhoods that were very, very lonely, the dogs were sometimes the only real true friends that princes and princesses had. So we're going to go over the top 5 things that I bet you did not know about dogs, royal dogs in history. All right, so we're going to start in 1715 with the Duchess d'Orleans. And okay, you're going to have to forgive me. I'm going to screw up so much on the pronunciation, but I promise you it's totally worth it. This is a great story. So in 1715, the Duchess d'Orleans, who was a prolific letter writer, was writing to a friend of hers that her grandson, the Duc de Charles, I'm going to go with that, was placed in a miniature triumphal, which is kind of like a carriage. So there's this little child-sized carriage that they had, and it was pulled by a large cat. And the pigeon was the coachman, and one of the favorite dogs named Adrienne was seated alongside the Duke, and an entirely different dog named Picart, not Picard for any of you Star Trek fans, Picart, was the footman who was trained to jump over to the triumphal side and let down the little stair to help the Duke or the other dog get into the carriage. This is just a crazy idea to me. I want to see pictures of this so badly. And of course, this is before pictures. So even on his time off, Picart was treated more like a horse than a dog in the royal household. He was often saddled and was given royal dolls to be put on his saddle. So Picart ended up being treated much more like a horse than a dog. But just give it a second to think of this little 2-year-old being ridden around the halls of Versailles with a cat as the horse in a little miniature carriage and a parakeet opening the doors. And I'm just kind of overwhelmed. Oh, I'm sorry, not a parakeet, a pigeon that was opening the doors as a footman, and a dog that was opening doors and letting down steps. I need a comic of this. This is fantastic. Okay, so we're going to move over to number 2. And that is some of the jobs that royal dogs had. They were not allowed just to generally loaf all day, although a lot of the lap dogs were. But there were some very important jobs for dogs. And in ancient China, pugs were taught to hold candles in their mouths so that they could light the path for the royals. Poodles in Versailles. Now, I love this. I'm deeply interested in historical fashion. But the poodles were taught to hold up their mistresses' trains, which is the extra material that goes down past the dress onto the ground. So the poodles would follow their mistresses around with the trains lightly held in their mouths to make sure that the dresses didn't get dirty. So this was really fun because I got to even go back to some of my research for the pugs, which if you want to, you can go back and listen to the things you did not know about pugs. But some of the dogs were actually incredible guardians, and King Edward was saved in 1549 when his very loyal dog companion was barking and saved him from a kidnapping plot. All right, so number 3, fantastic. This is dog collars. And the dog collars are not anything you would even begin to think of right now that you might have on your own dog. This is for royal dogs, and this took it way over the top. So in the 1st century, which going way back, 1st century AD, the very well-to-do Romans were known for actually creating these very beautiful and intricate silver collars for their dog. And in the Renaissance, a royal hunter could look for having a bejeweled collar, which is really interesting. So if you look at royalty in the Renaissance, a lot of the times what you'll see is collars only on the dogs that were working, like hunters or the guard dogs. And that was because they were out of the palace and moving around, where a dog that was more expected to be on the lap had ornamentation. And I'm going to get to what that ornamentation is later. But those dogs generally do not have collars. The hunters and the dogs that are meant for work, they had these beautiful collars that went everything from velvet silks to incredible jewels. And Louis of France, he gave his greyhound, Cherami. I am so sorry about these names. I wish there was pronunciations on these. I apologize. But go to the show notes, and I'm going to have links for everything. So you can tell me if I screwed up the pronunciation. Go ahead and put it in the comments nicely and kindly. But Louis of France, he had, for his greyhound, a collar of scarlet velvet with over 20 pearls and 11 rubies. Now, the Raj, I don't even want to try to pronounce this. I don't want to offend anyone, but please go onto the show notes. I will have a link. This is a name I cannot pronounce, and I'm so sorry. But he was known for being incredibly lavish with his dogs, and he had over 150 of them. And for his favorites, he would have these dogs painted for oil portraits. And they were given these beautiful diamond collars. And there is oil paintings of this. And I will try to track them down, and I'll link them up in the show notes. They're so worth taking a look at. Okay, so number 4. Some dogs were even able to help the staff of royal households. And Mao Shisu was very well known for this, because the dogs for his court were fitted with collars that were covered in bells. So when they would walk around, it was very clear to hear. And since they were following the emperor, all of the servants knew exactly where the emperor was at all times. All right, so I promised to tell you about the ornamentation that is not collars that was popular. I don't know how to feel about this, to be honest, and I will link not photos, but paintings of these dogs. But they used to pierce the dog's ears and put these incredibly ornate jewels through them. So there was dog earrings, and it was all the rage for the very wealthy and the royals, from the Medicis in 1573 to 1627 to Spain. And the trend remained all the way until the late 18th century. So that was actually something I had never even heard of until I was doing research on this. And I will definitely link the paintings. But I hope you enjoy. If I screwed up the pronunciations, or you found some other research or interesting things about royal dogs, please put it in the comments. I would be so excited to read about your research. And until next time, I hope you guys have a wonderful week.